This one is a bit impromptu, but it does categorize somewhat of a unforced error. So here it is. I'm gonna go ahead and refer to where this initially came from. I was going back and re-listening to because oftentimes while I'm driving and on the roads and working and whatnot, I can listen to podcasts, oftentimes audiobooks. Sometimes I'll go ahead and utilize YouTube music, listen to some classical music and whatnot, stuff to kind of, I can listen to, I enjoy. And also, I go back and listen to certain YouTube videos. And of course, one of the channels that I listen to often is The Business, the broadcast um, that he creates, and he being Jason Black. And I was listening to one broadcast. I forgot exactly which one it was, because I was listening to so many of them. I think it was the Motherhood is Dead one or something like that. Um, might have been that or Wealth Killer, one of those two. I think it might have been the Wealth Killer one. It might have been Wealth Killer or something based on finances and like how the cost of living and stuff. It was one of those broadcasts right around that timeline. And he said something that I mean I had known it, but for some reason it had kind of struck me. I was like, you know what, that is right. Like maybe I should make that video because I had been listening to a lot of the audiobooks and stuff, a lot of stuff on psychology, a lot of things on the dynamics of human nature, as well as the socializing and compatibility between men and women. With the Gray series of the Mars and Venus and all that stuff. Um, a lot of information, all of them coincide with one another, which is why uh it all supports reality because all of those works actually, even though all of them don't really mention one another, some of them do mention, some of them do, but for the most part, they're all from various sects of society where this group was doing a study on that group they specialize in this and that, so they specialize in different fields and areas, yet they still all to some extent came to this exact same ideology. Like everything fit together like a puzzle. This person was like halfway across the world, but they still came to the exact same realization or truth. And when you're dealing with the truth, that's how things work. So the thing that was said, simply put, uh, women are insatiable, and that I was, and the way my brain works, I process it, I plug it into my, uh, I guess you could say, my mental reality, and I'm like, yeah, yeah, that's actually true. Actually, I had already heard or I had already understood that. But of course, the word insatiable, if you're not familiar with what insatiable means, it just means well, pretending to an appetite is impossible to satisfy. And I'm like, yeah, that actually is right. That's why the age-old question of when you ask a woman what she wants and she can never really tell you the answer because the reality is she doesn't know. She'll probably know at that moment, but it will always change. It also goes into that situation where I talked about how everything's always gray, everything is always, it's never set in stone whenever you ask anything because it's purposely done that way because okay, if I say I'm happy with this one thing, then once I get that one thing and I'm not happy, then that'll make me look crazy. So I have to make it seem more vague than just obvious. That's where that whole, you ask a woman what she wants or something like that, and she can never really give you a direct, straightforward answer because if she does, What that really only means is that's what she's feeling at that moment in time, but it will inevitably change. So, in relation to that, I'm going to counteract that because that's actually very important, and I'm going to counteract that with what I know from men. Whereas, and this is like how we, how can I say this? This goes into part of that situation where why we're so, I guess you could say so compatible, but at the same time opposed to certain in certain situations. Whereas men, we like to solve problems. Um, we go with a lot of our life is based on respect and honor and legacy, that kind of thing. Also, we're also very, very simple, extremely simple. We are literally the simplest creatures on this planet. We are. Um, to relate that to today's society, of course, it was different throughout all time just because of the amenities and things we have. But today, it is simpler than ever to be a man. People look at the income for the average guy and they say, oh, they're underperforming. Well, then you look at the fact that most men are single, and although most men today are beta, but most men are single. And last time I checked, especially if you're living in America, 40 to $50,000 a year for a single guy is more than enough to satisfy him and his individual needs. No, he will not have the best of everything. No, he won't. But guess what? He'll still be satisfied because people aren't realizing the state of the men today. It relates back to that situation in Jordan Peterson's novel, not Maps of Meaning, but I believe it was, um, if it'll come to me, mm, 12 Rules of Life or something like that. I'll probably have to look it up because I know he has Beyond Order, 12 Rules of Life. Yeah, I think it was 12 Rules of Life. It was that one or Beyond Order, but he talked about that situation with the crabs. It also, in that situation, also um, relates to something Professor Scott Galloway also said. This is why I said a lot of these people, individuals from different parts of society, they all come, everything pieces together like a puzzle. So essentially, what Jordan Peterson was stating was the situation with the crabs, the way crabs mate, the males fight for dominance, and the winning males, let's say the top 20%, because that relates to our society today. Let's say the top 20% of the males are the biggest, the strongest, they win, and they get to mate with all the females. Well, guess what those bottom 80% of males do in that crab society? Now, this is real life. In that society, the top 20% of the males, they're macho. I think he talks about the hormonal response too, because there's also that hormonal response because they actually have the same or similar response, hormonal response that humans do, which is why he was doing the study. And what he found was, I want to say, because I know dopamine plays a good part in reward, but I forgot what the other one was. Um, what he found was the males that won, of course, they got the good hormones. They made it with all the females. They just made it, had all their fun, all that. And then what he found was that you think the loser males would try pretty much. And what they found was the loser males just gave up. They just said, "All right, well, those guys they won, so fuck it all." And then they just went on about their own business. Like they didn't even try to mate. They didn't even try to better themselves for doing any of that crap. They just went on with themselves. Like they didn't care whatsoever. After they lost, and then after the top 20% got their rewards and stuff, the losing crabs they just said fuck it all, and they just went off. on their own. They just didn't give a shit about the crab society from that point forward. And it pertains to something where Professor Scott Galloway, he had made a comment about the most dangerous person in society, and I'm paraphrasing here, but it was pertaining to those loser males, the average guy that today is a beta. They're subpar by the standards of females, of course. And of course, because society makes it harder for us, incomes are lower compared to the cost of living. So it's actually, we're even less capable than our father, much less capable than our father. So you actually have to be above average just to be technically average compared to our fathers. So those loser males of society are the most dangerous, which is something I've also said too, because it's like they have nothing to lose. They have nothing to live for. They have no rewards to look forward to. They know that they will never actually be a proper choice for a mate. And some people think that this will drive those guys to do better, especially women. They think, oh, well, if we keep our stuff high, if we keep our demands high, those guys will eventually catch on and then they'll do better. Well, actually, no, that's actually not what's gonna happen. Here's why. Those guys are absolutely okay and they're satisfied where they are because remember, guys are simple. And this is what I find with those guys. They are absolutely okay spending hours a day on video games. I talked about the danger of video games and how they actually satisfy some of those needs that men have, the need for respect and the desire, the natural inherent desire to solve problems. Video game feeds on all of that. It feeds all that hormonal response that we require to keep going in life to feel satisfied. To some extent, it even fulfills some of that purpose because they literally like if you ever talk to some of these guys, like the guys that are really into anime, the guys that are really into video games, the guys that are really into this stuff, their world literally revolves around this stuff. Literally. It literally involved. Now I was a gamer. I grew up on video games, but I never I always I mean when it came to playing some of these games, Call of Duty, my thing was Gears of War. I was a god at Gears of War. So when it came to out anything outside of that, I had my niche. And a lot of other gamers they actually have their niche too. And depending on your mood, you would play whatever game satisfy whatever your mood was because there's a plethora of games out there and you'd always have something new to look forward to if you dominated in one game you might want to fulfill another need in another game. You want to do a shoot 'em up one day and then you want to do a strategy game the next day, that kind of thing. So it would fulfill those needs, those urges. Additionally, uh this gaming did a good job at fulfilling that part in the man's life, that void. Unfortunately, we already know that all the benefits of this are completely digital. It does not you know transfer to the real world, which is actually why I believe Meta and all that virtual reality bullshit is actually going to make this even worse because I think that if they are able to do that, well, technically they will see that that virtual world is the real world, if you see where I'm going with that. Additionally, when it comes to food, because remember, guys are simple as hell. Video game fills a void that not much else in the past really could. Because way back in medieval times, if you weren't doing shit, plowing a field or something, your ass would just die. Well, today it's actually easier to survive. It's easier to survive in this society, at least in America, that is. You'll have food. You'll have access to food. As a matter of fact, the poorest people have access to. I want to say it's bad food, but it's actually fairly nutritious because they're obese and overweight. So we don't need special. We are absolutely because remember we're simple. Noodles, maybe they'll order some Chinese, maybe they'll order some Chinese every now and then. But to be honest, guys, we'll budget for whatever it is we need. Yeah, I can survive on some pack noodles. One of my go-to favorites, hot dogs. Cheap, fill you up. You can eat it with chips and fries. Another all-time favorite here in America, pizza. Cheap, depending on where you get it from, might be better quality ingredients. We're simple. We got we got a place to play our games, meaning we got some shelter, we got somewhere to live. I mean, if you're really bad, you're homeless, and then that's when you're really down and out when you're homeless. But for the most part, you can rent a couch or something. I mean, hell, we got a lot of people living out of those living vans. I've actually been seeing those a lot more. Those living vans, where you can get a van and you sleep in the van and you can live in the van. I'm actually seeing that a lot more. But yeah, we got our shelter. We also got that satisfaction of some of those hormonal needs. Oh yeah, you guys talk about sex, right? Well, you think, well, they would work harder, they would make it a goal to get better sex, right? Nah, these dudes is absolutely okay with sloppy seconds. I'm talking bottom of the barrel, whatever slops off the table, the scraps of the these guys are okay with that. It satisfies their need because beggars can't be choosers. And remember, guys are simple. We understand this because we're simple but logical. We understand, yeah, beggar can be chooser, so at least I got some sex. Yes, it's the bottom of the barrel. It's absolutely worse, but at least I got some sex. These guys, yeah, that's why these guys are simple. They are simple. They are satisfied with what they get. They don't have to put no more effort in. They're done. Well, opposite to that, you have the women. They ain't gonna be satisfied with that. Now, a lot of women do live in poverty, but you best believe that they still uphold that my man gonna do this, my man gonna do that. They still come in with the ceiling, period. Yes, yes, the vast majority of them will fail and never get it, but they will uphold and maintain that dream that they will eventually get it, even though they know most of them know it's a lie. Now, for those that do have the opportunity of dating a guy, and this is where it plays into that gray area where I kind of talked about why women will never give you a direct number. On the business, JB, he talked to some ladies, and they would always do this. He'd ask them like, "What did you want? Would you date a guy that earns this?" They'll say no, and then they'll try to turn around and say the money doesn't matter. And really, all they're really doing is it's a strategic thing because they want a guy with the money, but they know that the guy with the money has leverage, he has options, so they try to make it seem like, okay, well, I mean, not all the guys with the money are perfect. Okay, we get that. But what they really were trying to do for the most part was deleverage the money, but the money was still a requisite. So of course it's just manipulation and lying. It's yes, they want the guy with the money, but they also understand if they make it obvious, it's actually it's very much like when you're trying to negotiate something. You don't want the person to know how bad you want something because now they're going to know they have leverage. So what they were trying to do is deleverage the money because we all know that they want the guy with the money because they all made it very clear they ain't going to deal with a broke guy with one exception. And that exception was actually one of the unspoken assumptions that Jason Black also talks about, where she's going to expect her life to get better if she's dealing with you. Meaning, with the exception of, see, now, a broke guy that's 50, most, if not all women know that if that broke guy who's 50, he's going to stay broke for the rest of his life. He's a no-go. Now, they might actually still play that game, that gray area where, okay, they'll let him turn into an orbiter for obvious reasons. That obvious reason being that she knows, okay, at least I can get some benefits out of him. Because remember, most guys are beta. So she's going to use him for the benefits. Also, she's going to try to leverage just his existence to try to, how can you say it? For the guys that she really wants, because all women do this. She'll talk about how many options she has. She'll talk about how many guys want to marry her or propose to her. But let's just be real. If she didn't accept any of them, all that means is those guys weren't up to whatever standard she had. Meaning most likely they weren't worth a damn. They were orbiters. They were the guys that she friend zoned. But she'll still try to leverage that to make herself seem like a hot ticket, which is a strategy for negotiation. That's This is why I understand where JB was talking about how women are great negotiators. Yeah, they're playing the game like they're supposed to. And yeah, it's manipulative, it's deceptive, it's a whole lot of lying too, but it gets the job done. You see what I'm saying? So I understand it from that part. Now, the insatiable when it comes to being satisfied and being insatiable, going back to what I was saying, they won't get with the 50-year-old broke guy, but they will get with the 20-year-old broke guy because she's assuming that eventually, and this is what JB also talking about, eventually you will be motivated through her sex or through her plopping out a baby for you to become a producer, a high earning male. Because you still got the potential. Okay, yeah, you're 20. Most people already know you're gonna be broke when you're 20 today because they already know the economics of today. So most likely you're going to be broke. You're not going to have everything situated most likely until your 30s or your 40s. But she understands, okay, if you're broke at 20, okay, that's understandable. But I'm expecting you to be that guy throughout time. Of course, we also see that the older woman actually, like she's in her 30s, she'll actually target a guy in her 20s specifically for that purpose because the guys her age and older that have the leverage, she already knows she done lost out there. And them dudes just, they'll lay up with her, but they not trying to commit. So she's gonna try to go get a younger guy with potential to try to because she'll leverage that like, oh, what do a lot of women say? I was here when you was broken out, and as soon as he gets on, you best believe she's gonna be working that magic on him. I was here since day one, and then of course, guys with our loyalty and all that honor and all that bullshit, he's gonna stick around with her. She can. This is actually unfortunately where a lot of those guys that do go through those kind of types of relationships, they've been with a chick. Yes, she was with him before he got on, but at the same time, as soon as he got on, she started acting a damn fool. And he sticks around just because he's assuming that she was there because, she actually liked him for him because she was there before he got on. But no, dude, she put in a bet and it paid off. And now she's showing her ass. That's why a lot of people that win the lottery, they inevitably go broke. So, they put in a bet and they ended up winning and then they showed their ass. So, when it comes to being satisfied, I got a situation here. A lot of folks who've actually been on a vacation have experienced this. You go on a vacation with your lady, and it goes to the mindset of the vacation. It can be wherever you want. It can be in state. It can be in the country. It can be out of the country. Let's say, for example, you go to I don't know, what's a place to go? I guess Cancun. That seems to be a place that I hear a lot about. You go to Cancun. You and your lady go to Cancun. You have a blast there. And of course, when you go on a vacation, the first time you go, this is a key thing. The first time you go, you don't do everything, but you do some you probably look up some stuff in advance. You're like, okay, let me book this, let me book that, You keep it within reason. After the vacation. Now, mind you, I'm one of those guys, I don't necessarily have to go on a vacation like that every year. Especially at least not for now, because right now I'm in the building phase, so I'm actually not interested in doing that because I'm just so like, okay, I'm trying to build up. So for me right now, yes, I can mentally reset, but I can actually mentally reset in town. I don't have to leave town to do that. I can do that in town without having to go spend some money out of town, you see? So for me, me being logical, of course, I don't need to go on a vacation. But because I'm married, I have a wife, guess what? That actually complicates things because I know she's going to need to go on vacation. Otherwise, she's going to act a damn fool. So after you go on the vacation, it's maintenance, guys. So after you go on vacation, your response, him, y- this is going to be the typical response after vacation. You're getting on the plane, you're heading back home. You know what? Hey, that was a great trip. I enjoyed that. You're thinking about, the time you was there, you was chilling with your lady, you were cool with it. Hey, that was great. All right, time to get back to work. We enjoyed it. We good. All right, cool. You happy? All right, cool. You happy with that? Does that satisfy you? Cool. Let's go back home so I can get back to it. Now, you're thinking as a guy, okay, you took her on a trip. She should be happy with that. She should be satisfied with that. She'll be able to tell her friends about that trip for the next 2 years or something like that. You're thinking, okay, that was the big hoorah hoorah. You spent a couple thousand. You're like, oh boy, I ran up some credit cards. All right, cool. She should be satisfied with that. That was a life experience. Her response right after y'all get on, I mean, to be honest, probably before y'all even get on, probably when you're still in the hotel packing up to go to the airport, her response will be, I can't wait to come back, or I can't wait to do that again, or, and this is one of my favorites, next time we can go do that thing we didn't do. Like, let's say for some reason, horseback riding. That seems to be something that I could do horseback riding here. So, I mean, I don't know why I gotta go somewhere to go horseback riding. But then again, hey, maybe next time we'll do that horseback riding thing that we didn't do this time. She's immediately thinking about one-upping that trip. Now, it might not necessarily, you just think she's been a lady, she's doing it, she's all in her feelings, she's excited. But I want you to understand what that is. This plays into that essential part because think about the mental state of that. Now you're enjoying the experience that you just had, you know, you're satisfied with it, you're like, okay, if you're like most guys, like, well, I ain't gonna say most guys. If you're like me, you're like, okay, I need to go back, get back to work, whatever, right? That was full cool. We spent some money. It was a worthy investment. I know we needed that. You know, okay, cool. I can get back to work. I can do my thing. She is immediately setting the stage for one upping what you just did. So if this flies over your head, what you're not realizing is she just raised the bar again. So cool. We went on that trip. When we going to the next one? Like I'm talking about almost immediately after you get off that trip. When we going to the next one? Oh, next time we should go to this even more expensive, bigger, better place. And you're thinking, okay, cool, I'll plan that ahead. No, 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 no. You're thinking 5, 10 years. No, she thinking next year, bro. You're thinking, okay, we'll go on that bigger, better, way more expensive trip after I grind out for 5 years. No, 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 no. She's thinking next year, if not next month, immediately. She's trying to one up what you just now. Of course, she was in her feelings. She enjoyed that trip. I'm pretty sure she did. But like I said, because she's insatiable, what you weren't mindful of, she was taking a tally of all the things that you did do and also all the things that you didn't do while you were there. So all that, oh, look at that, that's nice. All that, oh, look at that, that's nice. All the stuff that she was looking at that you guys didn't experience, she's making a mental note of that so that, okay, well, she's already assuming you're going to come back. She's already assuming this now is the bar. This now is the norm. So now every year we're taking a trip like this, and every year I'm going to experience a new thing, and every year is going to get better and better and better and better throughout perpetuity. It never stops, if you understand what I'm saying. It never stops. It always continues, and it will always get better. Even as I'm getting older and less attractive and probably more of a burden, it never, it's never going to stop. And this is where the insatiable part comes in. She will never be satisfied. There will always be a bigger, better house. There will always be a newer, nicer car. There will always be a newer, nicer, more expensive bag or shoes. And that's what I'm saying. It is insatiable. Now, there are ways around. I'm not going to say around it because she'll never be satisfied. But there are ways to play the game. Shout out to Jason Black, the Dark Arts. You think this works against you when in fact, nah, if you know how to work it right, you can actually use it to your benefit. Because as I've learned, all you got to do is be her best option. Because guess what? After you've been with her for a while, after a certain age, ain't no dudes trying to fly her out like that. you're gonna literally be the only guy on the planet that will one up that last trip. Now she might become a problem. She will I'm not even gonna say might. She will there might be a time where she has to use some of her little tricks because remember, she's hypergamy never cuts off. Now, Jason Black talks about disarming hypergamy, but it never shuts off. It never shuts off. It's always in a standby position. It never completely cuts off. It's always, it's always running, but disarming it doesn't shut it off. It's always running because the moment it becomes armed, she immediately goes out there. And mind you, she's always talking to other guys. I don't give a shit what she says. She's always talking and contacting other guys. It's too easy nowadays. So she will immediately look at one of them orbiters to see what she can get out of them. This is where the orbiters come into play. So she will immediately go to one of them orbiters to see if he's going on a trip or something. Hey, how you doing? Because she knows that he's interested. And unfortunately, a lot of things that beta dudes do is with the opportunity of some pretty good, pretty decent sex. Now, mind you, he's a loser. He's not expecting to invest his money, so technically he doesn't really have to spend his money. Dude can be living off of $40,000, $50,000 a year, and he can actually be saving up about $5,000, $10,000 a year, which means like every 2 or 3 years he can actually uh splurge his money on a decent trip with a decent female. He'll have 20 to $30,000 to splurge because he's not looking to invest it or better himself. He's satisfied with where he is. But like I said, we're simple, and he might just be like, "Hey, this one chick hit me up, and I got the chance to get some actual real access here." I mean, yeah, she's sloppy seconds, but she much better than what I've been dealing with. She's much better than what I she's much better than what I've been dealing with. So yeah, he'll feel some type of way. Yeah, he will after he done blew the bag, but he'll still do it, and she knows it. I mean, I've actually seen it. Dudes will do stupid stuff. I mean, just stupid. They'll do stupid stuff and then never even meeting the chick. And this is where that whole scamming online thing comes into play. Actually, I'm surprised that there's actually quite a few women scamming online doing that because guys are dumb enough to actually send them money without ever meeting them ever. Dude will send her 20, $30. There's 10 or 20 simps out there. They'll send her $20. You see? So without ever meeting her. Oh, if they meet her, oh, and Lord forbid if she send them some sex stuff, then they might send a couple hundred, if not thousand. However, we already know that's not enough to satisfy her. Because remember, the cost is always going up. The more she's experiencing, the higher the cost goes, and it never stops climbing. So this is where, this actually can keep you on your game. You remember how I had did a broadcast a while ago, and I was like, never get comfortable. Like when I'm getting comfortable, I actually get somewhat uncomfortable because I know when I'm comfortable where I'm at, it doesn't make me want to do better. It doesn't drive me to do better. Which is why I always stay. I said that thing where it's like stay uncomfortable, and this plays in a part of you as a man because you're gonna have to do some things you don't want to do. Period. For example, when I'm talking about keeping the knife sharp, you got to get out there. You got to flirt just with some random ladies. Attractive. Keyword attractive. They can't be no. I don't deal with anything below 6. And to be honest, I prefer 8 and up. Actually, eight's kind of my sweet ground because usually the tens, they're. I mean, shout out to JB. Yeah, usually the tens, they got some extremes going on there. A bunch of guys too, but I like to dabble more so with 6 and 8s. Cute, very cute, sexy, attractive. You gotta keep the knife sharp. Do you think I want to get out here and socialize with random women, socialize with people to work on my social skills? Do you think I want to do that? No, of course I don't. I'd rather sit at home. But I know I have to. I know I have to, otherwise I'm gonna get so goddamn dull. I'm not gonna be capable of doing anything in the future. Uh, I'm gonna be socially incompetent, and I know that in itself is bad. That's an unforced error. So I got to get out there and do something I don't really want to have to do, but I know I have to do it. Do you think I want to work 14, 15, 16 hours a day, 5, 6 days a week, sometimes 7? No, I don't. But I know sometimes I got to. I got to do something that I don't really want to have to do because I know it's going to eventually pay off in the future. You see there? Do you think that I want to have to look like an asshole to some people? I got to cut some folks off. I got to say some unkind things to certain individuals. No, I don't want to, but I have to. I do it because I have to, not because I want to, but I have to do it. You see, you're gonna have to do some things that you don't want to do, and this comes into the simplicity of the guys today. You know, those this comes to those guys. Like I said, we're simple. Yes, we don't want to have to get out here and do all that extra stuff, but that's not the point. My thing is, if you're trying to do better, you have to. You're gonna have to do some things. You're gonna have to go through some things. You're gonna have to overcome some things. You're gonna have to push those boundaries. You're gonna have to be uncomfortable because that's the only way you climb the tree. That's the only way you do that. There's no such thing as sitting in comfort as you're climbing up the ladder. That does no. You're gonna be uncomfortable. You're gonna have to push the boundaries. That's part of the way to progress through life. That's part of the way to get better. You know, I talked about being the chef. After you sharpen that knife, guess what? You're gonna cut yourself. You're gonna do some dangerous things. You're gonna work with some utensils you never worked with before. You're gonna have to work with certain items you never cooked before. You're gonna have to taste some things that might not necessarily as they are individually satisfy your palate, but at the same time, you know, you might have to mix them together with something else, and you might have to get a little bit of that bitterness in your mouth so you kind of know exactly what you're working with and how much to use, et cetera, et cetera. You're gonna have to push those boundaries, textures, the smells, the visual appearance of the foods. You have to properly go. Like it's a lot that goes in the just that itself. I'm not satisfied. Actually, my game. I will never. I will say this. I have never not gamed so much in the last 5 to 6 years. Like I did not expect that I would get to this point because one of the things that I also noticed once you're actually doing this stuff in the real world, once you're accomplishing things in the real world, your desire that whole thing with the video games, because I kid you not, I was raised on video games. Like I was gonna live my life and I thought I was gonna have a full-blown game room. I was like, oh man, I could never see myself giving up video games. About 4 or 5 years ago, as I was putting my stuff together, I think I was about 20, 25, 26. And as I was in progress, I was doing my thing. And then I remember one day, about 1 or 2 years in, because mind you, at this point, I had already sold my game console because I wasn't really using it that much. And it was actually better for me to get the PC. And I had gotten a PC gaming instead. And about a year or two into me, you know, on my current journey, I would realize I hadn't played not one video game. Not a one. Not one. Now, mind you, I'm a guy who could play hours. I'm talking about hours a day. I used to play hours a day. Hours. And I did not see a future where I would not be playing video games. I kid you not. But once I was actually doing and accomplishing things as I was supposed to in the real world, I was doing so well. I was just going through life, and I was like, wait a second, when's the last time I played a game? Like I literally forgot about gaming. I was actually more satisfied with my life, but I literally forgot about video games. all together, and I didn't even realize it. And that was because, before, of course, when you're younger, you're not in the real world yet. So yes, as a child, you take to those video games. As you're in college and whatnot, you're still kind of going through that part. You're kind of transitioning, but you can still take to the video games. But as you get into the real world and you're earning and you're building and you're doing all this stuff, and it's like you're starting to get those satisfactions of achieving those goals and stuff in the real world instead of them being, satisfied through the video game. In addition, I was never, I have never been, oh, Jesus Christ. I told myself when I was probably, how young was I? Probably like, I had to be in high school. I think 14, 15. And I said, I will keep my bar where it's at. If she ain't, nah. I will never get with no slops. I don't do sloppy seconds. I don't do bummy broads. And you know what? Some guys said that too, but guess what? When you're desperate, when you're really desperate, and I've noticed this with some guys, when you're really desperate, you know, you hit the club and that's really all that's there right now. That's all that's really there for you. And you tell yourself, much like the females tell themselves, I'll get with this guy just because he'll do for now. She'll get with this transpose also to the females. This is why it goes into human nature. It's not just the male or female. This is actually just human nature in general. You tell yourself, "Oh, this is just for now. This is just for now. This is temporary. This is just for now." But what you don't realize is you're actually becoming more comfortable with those options. Meaning the more you satisfy or more you settle for that, yeah, you notice your taste kind of like, this actually isn't that bad. you actually you actually start to, how can I say it? You actually start to kind of I don't want to say you make an excuse, but you kind of rationalize it. You're like, it's actually not that bad. Then the next thing you know, your next girlfriend. I'm telling y'all. That's why now, this is before I realized that, but I just had told myself like I could never see myself. No, God, no. I could never see myself with that. I ain't even going to. And thank God I did that because, now that I know what I know, I'm glad I didn't because guess what? I would have been like, yeah, it's actually not that bad. No. But you see, to not get the bottom of the barrel, you actually have to be worth a damn. You actually have to be competent in at least more than one field. Socially, work it helps. Physically, yes, it helps. But once I'm not all around yet, I'm still working on the financials. I'm already got a plan in place. I've been working on that for. Let's just say I'm knocking down my goals. I'm knocking down my goals. I'm still getting there financially. But the other parts, yes, that helps. And like I said, you keep the knife sharp. You're working on yourself. You're constantly progressing, getting better. Now as a guy, like I said, now yes, I like to push my boundaries. I like to get better myself. But remember, as a guy, on the inside, technically, yes, I am simple. I am simple, but at the same time, I can't get I can't become too comfortable with my natural simple nature. Otherwise, it actually ain't that bad. I'm so, I'm sorry. This is the real world, people. I'm not even gonna lie. That's the mental state of that. Like I said, once you go down that road, that's the mental state you start to take on. It actually isn't that bad. I'm tell. All right, all right. Let me get back on. Let me get back on track. Sorry. Yes, that's That's where that that's where you start to go. So you can think that women being insatiable is a negative. It can be if you're thinking about how they always say that they're okay with you where you are, but there's always that unspoken assumption that she's expecting you to progress. She's expecting life to be better with you. Yes, I get it. But now you're here, so now you know it's an unforced error not to understand that women are insatiable. That in itself should be a clue to you. Oh, so what that means is she will never be satisfied at whatever current level I'm at. Therefore, I must constantly be in a state of improvement. Now, I will say this. It actually works in women's favor not it works in women's favor not to expose where the floor is, much like the women on the business and Jason Black where he talks about this, much like it works in their favor not to do that because I understand why they don't do that because we simple guys, if she comes in with the floor, guess what? We're only going to do the bare minimum required to keep her there. It's just that simple. And some women whom have dealt with multiple men, which usually by the age of 22 they have, but they understand this. That's one of the things that they worrying with guys. Well, hell, if I say something, yeah, he'll get it for me. He'll get it done. But then again, that's where that motherfucker stops. He's like, well, I mean, what you mean? I thought you was happy with this. Yeah, I was happy with that yesterday, but goddamn, it ain't gonna get better. Like, what the hell? You see what I'm saying? So that's where she understands. Okay, so if he's here, if he's willing to get me that Honda Accord, well, I might as well start off saying I want that E class. So now he knows, okay, yeah, I really want that E class. He'll still get you the Honda Accord, but he already knows, okay, this Honda Accord is just a retainer, pretty much. It's just a retainer because she didn't already let me know she really want that E class. And if I'm just being real, she really want that G wagon. But this Honda Accord is just a retainer, so that'll let the guy know, okay, she'll be okay with the Honda Accord for now, but I'm gonna have to either work some game magic. I'm gonna have to work some magic to try to keep her. Which is unfortunately the guys that do that whole pickup artistry thing. That's really just them doing the same thing the women do, deception tactics. You know, the you know they call it game, but really it's just a bunch of deception tactics. Because if you ain't got it, you ain't got it. However, you will eventually have to pay the cost to be the boss. But the thing is, you just have to pay more than whomever else is interested. Whoever is bidding, it's a bidding war. And you don't have to, the current bid is at $20,000. You'd be a fool to put a bid in at 100,000 when you could have got it for 30. You'd be a fool. Now she would like for you to put in a bid at 100,000. Absolutely. Absolutely. That means it worked. The current bid is at 20,000. Now you don't know the current bid is at 20,000. She knows the current bid is at 20,000, but she wants to keep that from you. You're assuming she's just gonna let you know there's other people bidding, and you're like, oh hell, and then that's where you come in with the highest you got, or the highest you can do, or the highest you're willing to put in. Well, hell, I'm willing to do 100,000. Good, you win. You got the bid. And then usually it's not till later that the guys realize, oh hell, I could have got it for 30. But to each his own. So now, for those who didn't understand that, now you do know why women come in with the ceiling, and eventually that ceiling goes higher and higher as time goes on. As she understands more about the world, then yeah, like I said, insatiable, never satisfied, never, ever, ever satisfied. However, like I said, there are ways to play around it. You just got to be the best bid. And to be honest, you should be able to use that as a driving force for yourself. Unless you want to fall victim to hypergamy, you should use that for yourself to always become better as an individual man yourself. So it's up to you. So I just want to do this impromptu video, pre-recorded, of course, about that, and I will link those videos. I can't remember which one it is, but it was one of those finance videos from the business, either the Wealth Killer or one of the others. I will post in the link, so you'll probably see like 2 or 3 videos. All of them, to be honest, you should watch all of them, to be honest. But as usual, as we do all here, thanks for watching. And I'm all about action over here. So don't get too satisfied. Don't go play that Call of Duty right now. Don't. I know. I already know what you're thinking. You think you're gonna go over that. You're gonna get off of this. You're like, oh, that's a nice video. Start playing the video games, dude. I'm telling you right now. I didn't think I would not be playing video games today, like I do. Yes, from time to time I still do when I have free time. That's one of my ways of recharging. But I don't play nowhere nearly as much as I used to. So instead of doing that video game, put a plan in motion and get to it, my guy.
Don't let me down, man. If you let me down, I don't know what I'd do.
All right. So till next time, y'all. Take care.